thank you for this opportunity to talk to you, and thank you for supporting Ukraine. We really appreciate it. And let's start. Audrey, tell us about Taiwan's experience expanding services for citizens through digital technology, and which other countries are leading the way?
Of course, Ukraine, with the DIA app, is a model of the world on how citizen participation, in addition to service delivery through the mobile phone, can enable all the citizens and also residents to contribute. In Taiwan, we have the same. Our universal healthcare, the National Health Express app, counts more than 10 million of people doing contact tracing, mask rationing, all sort of vaccination and so on the app, so that we were able to counter the pandemic for the past 3 years without a single day of lockdowns. And the experience of even filing the tax and so on are revamped by contributors from the civic technology community, so that we can co-create better services. Every year, we run the presidential hackathon, which counts more than 200 teams from domestic and abroad to co-create better digital services. And the winner, 5 winners every year, get this presidential commitment to turn their small-scale experiment, small apps like telemedicine and so on, into national-scale deployments within the next fiscal year with all the budget, personnel, and regulatory support.
You mentioned our application DIA, like action in Ukraine, and how can you rate it? Okay. You saw it, this application.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
We paid very close attention, not just DIA, but before DIA, there was Prozoro, the open procurement platform for anti-corruption, better participation, and international communities. Because around 2014, we were pushing the same agenda in Taiwan for open procurement and contracting and so on. So we joined each other's forces on the open government partnership, sharing the toolkits, including the hackathon, well, not presidential hackathon, but certainly in Paris, right, in the president's office. And so all this connected our people-to-people ties, our civic technology communities together. And so when the DIA offered a easier to deliver form of such services, we were very excited.
Thank you. And what lessons in Taiwan learning from Ukraine in combating cyber attacks and disarming disinformation?
So I remember when the Kiev situation happened, the start of the brutal war from the Russian side, I stayed up all night checking not just Twitter, but also Kiev Independent and many journalists on the ground during their reporting. Now, imagine if there's no internet connection in Kiev at the time, then people will still have the same appetite for information, but all they will see is probably deepfakes, propaganda from Russia, and things like that. So the number one lesson we learned is that we must provide broadband communication through whichever means to all the journalists, including civic journalists. And that is why we invested more than 15 million euros over the next couple of years into non-geostationary orbit satellite receivers. We'll build more than 700 of these receivers, some fixed, but some also mobile on the ground, on a truck, like we have seen in Ukraine, so that they can power itself, maybe through solar panels, and receive the satellite internet, and then relay the communication through 5G towers to nearby towns and journalists, exactly as we have seen in Ukraine.
Great. And what are the key factors driving the development of information and digital technology in Taiwan?
2 things. One is called broadband as a human right. So no matter how remote you are, maybe very rural areas, remote islands, even the tip of Taiwan, the Jade Mountain, almost 4,000 meters high, you can still live stream. You can still enjoy a broadband internet for just 15 euros a month, unlimited data. So this is a human right. The other is called digital competence. So all our school children, junior high school, senior high school, they learn about not just media literacy, which is when you read, but also competence, which is when you write and produce. So they participate in measuring air quality, to debunk rumors about air pollution, to find out the actual pollutants, to fact check, the three presidential candidates as they were having their debates leading toward the 2020 presidential election. And if the student found a typo or an error or something that's not factual, their name may appear on the broadcast. So working toward collaborative fact-checking or co-facts, that's an important civil society endeavor that many other jurisdictions are now also learning from Taiwan, because our code is open. It is open source public code.
And I would like to ask you about Taiwan's experience, how to protect personal data and digital services.
So no one is an island, not even Taiwan. So to defend against cyber attacks, we work with international community. Now, anyone in Ukraine, anywhere in the world, can donate some of their spare hard drive storage to pen our website to defend against the denial of service attacks. The likes have never been seen in this early August, 23 times higher than the previous peak. And also we manufacture through TSMC and the supply chain, the chips for advanced encryption, so that people can compute, that's to say train AI and so on, for the public good without actually looking into any of the private data. And this requires very advanced chip making capability that Taiwan is happy to share with all our democratic alliances.
Yes, and Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine has garnered global headlines. How would you describe the local media's coverage?
Local what?
Media coverage.
Coverage, yes, local media coverage. I think all the local media, regardless of their partisan affiliations, consider Ukraine and Taiwan very closely bound. I think we are all on the front line facing authoritarian expansionism, brutal expansionism. And when, for example, a young soldier from Taiwan joined the Ukrainian armed forces to defend, it was widely covered in Taiwan, and everyone feel the need to pay more attention to what's actually happening in Ukraine, because as I mentioned, we share the same situation. And since the very beginning, when the call to sanction TSMC chips against Russia and so on was started, I think everyone in Taiwan understood that this is not about market access. This is not about earning GDP or things like that. This is about, as I mentioned, because advanced microchips are used not just for science, not just for public good, but also for cryptanalysis, that's to say attacking on the cyber attack front. Denying access to the most advanced chips is essential in defending democracy. And so I think this is the angle that most of the Taiwanese media is viewing this conflict.
You know, you mentioned Jonathan Tseng. It's a soldier who fought in Ukrainian war. And for us Ukrainians, he is a hero. And really appreciate. And my last questions, in what areas can Taiwan help Ukraine?
So during the recovery process and the rebuild processes, Taiwan has extensive experience because we suffered around the turn of the century a huge earthquake. And we also participated in the relief and rebuild efforts following the even larger earthquake in Japan. And so in many ways, digital can connect people who are in different time zones together as if we're in the same room. It's called co-presence. And so through these skills, we were able to provide high quality education, health services, public services to even our most remote islands, despite the disconnect physically. I think in the digital world, vicinity is measured not by the kilometers on the map, but rather by the shared values that we all cherish. So as a fellow signatory to the Declaration for the Future of the Internet, the DFI, when I signed on the video conference, the rectangle next to me is Fedorov. And so we are signing the same declarations, protecting the human right and resilience of the internet. And it is through the internet that Mo, that the Ministry of Digital Affairs, can deliver the kind of services that we already enjoy here in Taiwan, that we have experienced following a recovery, and we are standing ready to help.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you.